suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
David Whiting is here to help you with all of your legal problems. There's not a single one that he cannot solve. David Whiting, correct?
Oh, if only that were true.
Don't say that. That's no way to sell your trade here. How are you?
No. Very well, thank you. Enjoying the weather and the walks.
Yeah,
I'm nearly in Cairns.
What do you mean?
I've got a phone app that measures how far I've been walking.
Oh.
And in a straight line, since I bought the phone in July last year, I've almost made it to Cairns.
Fantastic. Did you stop in Noosa along the way?
Oh, I haven't stopped anywhere. I'm very mindful of lockdown requirements. So if you just measure the straight line distance between Melbourne and Cairns, I'm nearly there. I'm aiming for Port Douglas.
I would keep going till you get to Port Douglas. Don't swim on the beach there, though. The salties have come in, I hear, so you just have to stick to the pool. Did we have any homework from last week, David?
No, homework free.
Oh, so no wonder you've been walking so much. You've had nothing else to do. All right,
Indeed.
then let's get straight to it. Glenys in Geelong, you are first up this morning. Good morning. How can we help?
Hi, David and Virginia. I went to McDonald's last year. Got coffee, 2 coffees. Came out of McDonald's, a coffee in each hand. I couldn't get out the door, so I turned around and backed out the door. And as I backed out, I think I tipped the coffee and spilt it. Not greatly, but I think I did. And then I fell on that. I landed in the corner of the building, split my head open, and I ended up having 30 stitches.
Ooh.
I want to know if I can take some sort of legal action against McDonald's, or is it just too big a company to even bother?
Do you want to sue McDonald's? There's a good one.
They will have more insurance companies than you and I will ever see, Glenys.
That's what I was worried about.
The issue is not whether you can sue. The issue is whether you are likely to succeed. All right?
Yes, that's right.
So, I mean, my view would be that people take on companies like McDonald's all the time, and they have the same insurance companies that you and I have, and the insurance companies take the same approaches. What did they do wrong?
They should have given it to me in a cup holder, I believe, because as I was coming out the door, if I'd had them two in one hand in a cup holder, and then the other hand would have been free for me to open the door and walk out.
Is it not your responsibility to pop the holder on yourself when you're handed the cups? Aren't the holders there to one side, the lid's there to one side, I'm sorry?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Glenys, my difficulty would be you would be liable for some of let's assume that there's some liability with McDonald's. You would have some as well.
Mm.
I mean, presumably we're entitled to assume that you'll take some care of yourself.
Mm.
So I would have said that whatever the situation is, there would be some contributory negligence.
Right.
And that to me would be your biggest problem.
Okay. All right.
So I wouldn't be racing off to do anything until you had some kind of assessment as to what responsibility do you have to look after yourself.
Okay. All right.
How's your head, Glenys?
Oh, it's good. It's all here. I went to Geelong Hospital and the doctor there was beyond words.
Great.
Fantastic, yes. So
So you've recovered
I've got
well?
scars, but yes, I have. I've recovered well,
Yep.
and I have no after effects, except I hate going to McDonald's now. It terrifies me.
So maybe just don't go.
Yes, that's a good point.
And,
all right.
and definitely carry your coffees carefully. My goodness me, we can all spill them. So if Glenys had come to you, David, and made an appointment to see you, what would you have advised?
No long-term injuries. I would have put it down to experience and moved on.
Okay. And sometimes
she's presumably had her medical bills paid through the Medicare system.
That's right.
So she suffered no long-term. There would have been some short-term pain and some angst, but my view would be put it down to experience is what I would have said.
Okay, terrific. Now, who shall we go to next? All right, Ron in Essendon, what's going on?
Good morning, David and Virginia. My name is Ron McFarlane. I'm in a timeshare membership.
Don't tell us where, Ron. Don't tell us where.
No, I was going to ask you whether you want to know.
No, none of those details.
Definitely not.
I've been in it since 2001. I'm trying to get out of it because my wife's in aged care and I'm 82 and I'm unable to any longer use the facilities. And I'm looking at how to do it, and I've heard of people even offering to give it back to the organisation at no cost, and they've refused to take that. I'm wondering if there's any legal avenues that can be explored.
Do you have a title for your timeshare interest, do you, Ron?
I'm one in every...
There are several timeshare structures, if you like.
Yes.
Some of them are leases. Some of them, so, you get the second week in September every year, or you get a floating week. And
I get a floating week every second year, yeah.
Some of them have certificates of title and a pooling arrangement. There are people who sell timeshare. There are some websites around that will offer to sell them for you. It really depends upon the particular timeshare resort that you're involved in as to what they do. And sometimes there will be a newsletter being operated by the management company that will indicate where people have timeshare to sell. I mean, I've got a friend who had a timeshare and we sold it for, I think, about 15% of what we paid for it.
Yeah, that's about what we're looking at, yeah.
So
have a look. I mean, I had one for a client in Queensland the year before last where it was simply bought back by the management company. So have a talk to the management companies who buys.
Okay.
They won't do that, no.
They won't take it back?
No.
So are there any other options here then,
Well,
David?
you could put it on Gumtree or eBay or see whether someone is interested. Yep.
Okay.
But they're taking away some of the rights that I now have. The would be if somebody takes my membership, they don't get the benefits that I now enjoy. That to me is...
well, why don't you see, Ron, whether it's possible for you to, if you like, hire out your timeshare arrangement? What's the value they're putting on it, Ron, at the moment?
Oh, about $1,500.
Okay. I would be looking to see whether I could sell it on an online auction site, Gumtree, eBay, one of those.
They've been
see whether you can get some interest.
Those shares have been sold in that way before, have they, David?
Yes, well, it's a question of how does a seller find a buyer?
Yeah.
And that's the way to effect the introduction. There'll be formal documents required, but you can sell them that way.
Okay. We wish you all the best, Ron. Hope it goes well. Ian in Mount Eliza, what's going on?
Yes, good morning, Virginia and David. Thank you very much for your wonderful program. My late wife will be listening to it up in heaven. Thank you. We have a problem.
If only she had a ratings book, Ian.
I know it's the best rated radio program in Australia. Anyway, well done. Look, I came in on the end of a chap who had a problem with being pursued for urinating. He should really get the idea of having a plastic bottle in his car, as we were taught in the armed services. If you're caught short. You probably recall that. But
I do. What's your question, Ian?
My question is, unrepresented litigant in a Supreme Court. Us local people here on Councillor Desbori O'Connor's area are being called up to the Supreme Court because we complained about a property development. And we are one of 17 respondents with no money, no legal kind of background and a large amount of legal points. Can you advise me, David, about the rights of an unrepresented litigant who just stood up for their rights to protect a green belt beyond the urban zone area in the Mornington Peninsula against the large...
Ian, you are presumably being sued because the developer believes that its rights were being infringed by your action.
Yes.
Right now, I'm not saying that you don't have an honest and reasonable belief in the propositions that you've put, but the purpose of the litigation is to test that. Now,
Yes.
I can tell you that there is an officer at the Supreme Court to assist unrepresented litigants,
Yes.
but they can't provide you with legal advice, and the process is not brilliant, but they do provide guides and assistance.
Yes.
And my recommendation would be that you endeavour to look and see what some cases are doing. What you might also do is talk to, there might be a couple of ways you could deal with it. You might be able to negotiate your way out of the litigation.
Yes.
So you might come along and say, if I do A, B, C and D, will you discontinue your proceeding against me?
Yeah.
The other thing that you might do is that the 17 of you might go along and say, I want to buy an hour or a day of somebody's time to help us understand what the process is and what it means from our point of view and how we might respond.
Yes, that's correct, and I've been given that advice by the Supreme Court. The problem is that we've already won a battle in VCAT at a no-cost tribunal, and the applicant is questioning and demanding another VCAT with different commissioners. It is a very kind of underhand when we've had 3 years.
Ian, there's a process, right? Now, sometimes you like the process, sometimes you don't like the process, but it's still the process. It is possible for someone who believes that VCAT has made a decision that's wrong at law to go to the Supreme Court to ask for either the decision to be overturned or for the matter to be reheard.
All right.
I mean, that's the process.
Okay. Ian, good luck with all of that. It sounds like it's a complicated thing you're about to go through, but we wish you all the best. Tim is in Princess Hill. Tim, how can we help?
Morning, Virginia and David. Thank you very much for your program.
All right.
David, I'm currently working remotely in accordance with the health directions and orders.
Yes.
I normally work in an office of approximately 70 staff with a common lunchroom or tea room. I'm fully vaccinated for the virus, and upon returning to the office when that actually happens, can I communicate to my employer requesting that I am not seated close to non-vaccinated staff? What's your advice on that?
Tim, I've been looking at it from my office point of view at the same time. Most of mine, I expect that everybody will be vaccinated, but at the moment the law says that's their choice. I'm actually on a slightly different tangent. My question will be, when the office reopens and somebody asks to come and see me, do I ask them to establish that they're vaccinated?
My problem is that it's an open plan office, and
yes,
it's not quite socially distant.
No, and we're seeing, and in the workplaces where the infections are occurring. So does he have any rights here, David?
Well, his rights are against the employer.
Yeah.
And someone's going to run a case on this at a Fair Work Tribunal, Tim, about whether or not what are the obligations to an employer in having somebody come back to the office.
Do we have anything established right now?
No, because courts don't like dealing with abstract problems. So hopefully there'll be some legislative changes. But if not, Tim, it's the responsibilities with your employer. My view is that most employees will be saying, or many employees will be saying, I don't think it's safe for me to come back to work until you can be sure you're giving me a safe workplace. My problem will be is that it will be dealt with as an unfair dismissal claim, where somebody gets fired. Yeah, well, somebody, let's say, for example, someone says, I'm not going to go back to my employer because it's not safe, and the employer says, I've done everything, so I'm firing you.
Before we get to that, though, Tim, have you tried having that conversation with your employer yet about how they're going to manage vaccinated and unvaccinated staff?
I was waiting to see what David gave his advice, but I thought I would put it in writing to my employer, attaching my vaccination certificate and starting the conversation that on return that I'm not seated close to non-vaccinated staff.
It might be a good idea just to start the conversation a little less combatively just to begin with, just a phone call and a chat first. And
That's right.
Then we can
That's
get to
right.
letters and vaccination certificates. So people's backs get up very quickly in that situation. So maybe just you might find your bosses even of a similar thinking to you.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There's nothing legal that anyone can rest on now, unless, of course, there are mandated public health orders. And that's what we talked about this morning. That's being considered by the state government. I suspect it's just going to be a threat to the construction unions. They won't follow through. The threat, hopefully, might be enough. Where if it's mandated, then there's nowhere to go because it's a public health order, and the employer will have to abide by it. Correct, David?
That's right. So if it comes through, the answer will be you can't come to work at my workplace unless you have a vaccination certificate.
Yeah, that's right. And there are some workplaces and some professions that are being mandated in that way around the country in various states. Arthur in Mont Albert North, how can we help?
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I have an issue with regards to residential development just next to where I live.
Mm-hmm.
I have spoken to council planning. I've spoken to compliance officer. I've written into the councillor in charge of my ward, and I've written into the mayor as well, just to find out whether there anybody looking at this particular development, because it seemed to be too high in terms of height.
Have you established if it is too high?
Well, according to the regulations for this area, Mont Albert North, the maximum height is about 11 meters. According to the developers who are taking this to compliance, it's being built at 12.3. According to the plans being submitted to council, it's 10.7. According to council, the building is currently being built with a carport, and the submission of plans were without the carport, etc., etc. It goes on and on. I just want to find out what I can do to get council to have a look at it, or is there any other avenue I can take to get somebody interested in the project?
Have you brought the matter to the attention of the building supervisor, the building surveyor who issued the building permit?
He, according to my neighbour who is adjacent to that residential building, they are the people who actually measured the height of it. It's 12.3 meters. According to the building plans,
you can get a surveyor, Arthur,
right,
who will be able to give you a formal document stating what the height of the building is, and you should then take that to council as evidence of a breach of the planning scheme.
I think the looking at the council regulations, if I'm correct, maximum desired building in this area is 2 stories, ground floor and first floor. This is 3 stories high. I also looked through the regulations. I mean, they do not allow decking on your second floor or your first floor. This has got a decking area on the 3rd floor. So they are
Arthur. They are the matters that you take to council.
I've written the council outlining everything that I believe may be an issue for them to look at.
You could, if you wanted to, Arthur, you could issue your own application at VCAT to get the building permit revoked.
All right.
Right, but that's going to cost you a great deal of time, effort, money and risk. Because if you're found to have issued the application without justification, then you're going to get stuck with a claim for damages.
Because I get that response from council themselves. They are afraid to take this to court because they feel that they may be sued by the developer.
Well, that's why councils have deeper pockets than you and I do, Arthur.
I know, exactly the point. So I'm getting very frustrated because it seems to me that the application of, whoever is looking after planning here is being contracted out to a third party who are writing their own rules.
Arthur, you could go to the Ombudsman's office and make a complaint about the council's failure to administer the planning scheme.
Right.
You could try there if you wanted another arm of government that you could have a talk to.
Right.
Good luck. It does sound like it's going to be complicated. We have a call from Anne in Bendigo. What's going on, Anne?
Oh, good morning. I have a piece of my building a bit of moulding that was removed by a tradesman who was working on other things, and he took it to have it reproduced. Now, that was February. It turns out that the person he took it to reproduce it can't do that, and he claims he didn't have it. The first person keeps sending me an invoice for the work he did, which he did do, but I don't want to pay him until I have my piece of wall back in place. What do I do, David?
And do you have any estimate of value of what your moulding is, what it's worth?
No, I have had another builder come in and I'm waiting on the quote.
So I would be saying to to the tradesperson, you simply say, you haven't completed the task because you haven't put the moulding back.
I've done that about 6 times. Every time he sends an invoice, I reply with that.
That's okay. I had some work done for an estate and I kept getting all of these accounts even though the issue had been finalised. So it's just a computer program that keeps sending you the reminders. You could, you could go to VCAT and you could get an order that says you don't have to pay until the work's finished, but if you'll see what VCAT's problems reported on the weekend, they are months and months and months behind where they were last year. So I think that your better answer is to wait until you get the quote to replicate the moulding, and you know, unless the tradesman rings you up and says, why aren't you paying, I wouldn't be doing anything else, because it seems to me that you are endeavouring to pursue the issue to finalisation.
And it's the most
You're
important.
Willing to pay, you just need to know what the moulding fix is going to be.
And it's the most important thing here, getting the original moulding back. Is that what matters to you most here?
Yes, that's all that's left to be done. And it's glaring. It's only about 5 inches by 3 inches, but it's very glaring.
What is it exactly?
Every time you walk into the room?
Yes.
Can I ask what it is exactly, Anne, in the room? What is it?
Oh, it's a built-in piece of furniture.
Right. Okay, and it's a bit from the cabinet work or something, is it?
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm even told that they can't even get the same type of timber. So it is a bit of a dilemma.
David?
I would keep trying for a replacement, Anne. It's all you can really do.
I will. I'm very tenacious, so I shall do that. Thank you.
Good luck.
Tenacity is what wins out in the end. David, always great to have you on board. How's your hair at the moment? Do you have anyone in your household who can help you with your hair, given that hairdressers are closed?
I've had some offers, but I have declined. If that's Virginia. I've said to my daughter that I'm happy for her to cut my hair if I can cut hers. And that's received a no.
Now, I know there's not a great deal of it there, but nonetheless, it needs to be maintained,
it's
correct?
Precious to me.
Of course. That's why I was hesitant to even go there. Okay, well, stay listening, because maybe you could do it yourself in the mirror. David, we've got a hairdresser coming along who can help all blokes either have their hair cut by someone they love and trust, or maybe even manage it themselves. So stay tuned.
I will. Thank you.
David Whiting there, Melbourne solicitor. Maybe we can help him out this morning as well. And I certainly hope he was helpful to you.